everyone, I'm Linus of Judea, and today I wanted to talk to you about my life here in Israel. Um, I'm not going to pretend to understand what it's like to live elsewhere because I don't have the right to. I can only imagine. I can tell you about my life here. I grew up in a small town in the north of Israel, and the town was built in 1934 by Jews who escaped Nazi Germany. This was actually just a bunch of fields that belonged to a family in Lebanon. They bought it. The Jews came here, bought it legally, and they first made it into a farmland. They planted strawberries, and they had dairy farms in which they produced milk products, and they also made meat products. Sausages and other kinds of meat products. They were selling them, and they both dairy and meat companies, they became the largest ones in Israel. And the town was they had a small stream, but they called it river that was crossing it. So they named it. The name of the town is Naharia because Nahal means river in Hebrew. They planted eucalyptus trees to control the stream, so there wouldn't be any swamps. They built houses, and in time the town grew and became really beautiful. People would come and visit, and it was a tourist attraction. People who went north all the way. I mean, that was a time that was actual diplomatic relations between Israel and Lebanon. We used to live at peace with them. It was Christian Lebanon mostly, so they would be coming to Israel, and just they would find the Nalia to be a good place to stay in. Within time, tourism kind of died out. But as a kid, I remember they used to have um, they used to have carriages with horses in the street next to the eucalyptus trees in the middle of town. And we used to have celebrations every Purim, every, I think maybe even Hanukkah, I'm not sure, every Independence Day. Used to have, well, it was before my time as a kid, but they used to have outdoor cinemas. And it's just it was a beautiful town, and it still is. I mean, it became more beautiful in time because the mayor did his best to plant gardens and design the streets, the sidewalk, in beautiful, colorful bricks and all that stuff. And he basically wanted to bring people back as tourists. They built more cafes, and they built malls here. This is my life as a kid, and this was a very nice little town to grow up in. Extremely boring. There was nothing to do here as a teenager, except going and walking by the beach, which I used to do a lot. Um, also, I remember being constantly aware that there's always danger somewhere near us. The sound of jet planes was very familiar. We would see them a lot, and I'm talking about Army, Air Force planes. We had a United Nations family that were serving in Lebanon. They were living in my street. My father would go regularly to do reserve duty in the army. I remember the smell of the uniform, and he didn't have to, actually. I mean, he was wounded in battle before he and my mom met, so technically he didn't have to do reserve duty. But in this country, when there's war, people want to volunteer to defend this country. It's not even a duty, it's something that we feel that we have to do. That's why after October 7, and I'm pretty sure after other wars, Israelis didn't try to escape Israel. Israelis came from abroad back to Israel. They cut their vacation shorts and everything. They came here to volunteer for the army. And I wish they didn't have to, but if we don't fight to remain here, we would not survive. I remember as a kid having drills in school all the time, in elementary school, in junior high, in high school, drills that were not fire drills. They were drills in case of an attack, rocket attacks. And I remember that we used to have days that, the Americans have snow days. They don't go to school. We had rocket days. It wasn't all the time. About as much as Americans have snow days. So a few times a year, we would stay home, and sometimes it wasn't. I mean, it was rare when it happened, but they would be like sending us back home from school if there were rocket attacks. When I was in junior high, we had a. It was a start of a series of suicide bombing attacks all over the country, mainly in populated areas like Tel Aviv, and um, things like stabbing and kidnapping our soldiers. I'm talking about Palestinian terrorists who did that. And especially in March 1996, it happened every day for about a month or so, every single day. Then in April, there was a rocket attack on my town. I remember the rockets. I was traveling by bus. There was a rocket attack, and I actually saw the rocket falling where the bus was earlier. I saw the smoke. Rocket fell not far from my house in 1996, in the building I was living in. I was living next to a high school, and it fell right there in the yard. I heard the sound of the rocket falling. I thought somebody was just slamming the door in my building. And obviously, I don't know if you remember, because it was probably before you were born, but in January 1991, this country has been through the first Gulf War. We were attacked by Saddam Hussein because he couldn't attack the United States, the civilians there, because they're far away. So he attacked the closest ally of Americans, which is Israel. For several months, I think it was 2 months, I would walk to school with a gas mask. Everywhere, even just leaving the house, I would have to carry that big, heavy, bulky gas mask. We used to decorate the thing, and we would sing songs mocking Saddam Hussein. I remember the panic because people thought for the first time that we would have atomic weapon or chemical or biological weapon being used against us. That does happen, in history, and Saddam Hussein was crazy enough to do it. But there were rockets that fell on different areas of this country constantly, and it was difficult to intercept them. So it was usually normal the way I grew up, except for every now and then these rocket attacks and watching the news all the time. I mean, this is something we do here in Israel. All of us, we watch the news. The radio plays news flashes every hour. Used to be every half hour. Every night, people watch the 8 o'clock news. And at some point, it becomes boring because you hear the same thing over and over again. How much people hate us here, in the countries near us, and all over the world. So when October 7th happened, what surprised me was the intensity and the fact that we didn't expect people to enter our homes and killing us in our sleep. When I say us, I mean the people on the other side of the country in the south. They were living in their villages, kibbutzim, and at 6:30 in the morning, they had rockets, and then they had actual terrorists going in their houses, killing them, burning them, kidnapping them. Some of them were terrorists, with the way the terrorists are dressed with, vests and all that. Some of them were people in civilian clothing that came from Gaza because they heard that they're going to be paid for every Israeli hostage that they would bring. And they did come to take hostages, to kill, to rape, to loot. The music festival was something, that I couldn't imagine anything happening there. And I don't care that it was close to the border with Gaza. It's our country behind that border. We have every right to celebrate wherever we want inside our country, within our internationally recognized border with Gaza. All the fences here that we have near Gaza, they're there for a reason, to stop these things from happening. But this attack that was planned for years came at a time when we weren't paying attention, when we thought that maybe there's a chance to live our lives without being constantly alert. We made a mistake. It cost us dearly. I remember hearing the news all day, hearing the people calling from the places that had the massacres in them. People hiding and whispering in the news that, the newscaster would tell them, "Can you speak louder?" And they would say, "No." They were calling for help. There was this one guy who was asking help to track down his wife and child, that their phone was, it was pinging, I think that's the term, in Khan Yunis, in the Gaza Strip. Israelis don't go into the Gaza Strip. Don't go of their own free will. At least, I mean, before October 7, we had nothing to do in there. We wouldn't go in there. We weren't allowed to. I mean, our soldiers would go there when the people of Gaza would fire rockets at us. Obviously, if Mexico was firing rockets at the United States, they would respond, try to get these people from stopping firing rockets at them. But try to get them to stop firing rockets. The horrors of October 7, they were very painful memory. My children will remember this, and the rockets that were following that every day since for a whole year and a month. I'm not pretending to understand the way that the Palestinians think. I can only imagine, and what they feel and the reasons that they feel this way. I have seen their propaganda films, and I've heard them talk on the streets and speeches that their leaders were making. I never heard so much hatred from regular people. Especially, I mean, I never heard that kind of hatred ever in Israeli society. We had people here, every family had somebody who was killed or hurt at war or the terrorist attack. I was close to terrorist attacks several times in my life. I don't think that anybody should live like this. I know the Palestinians are suffering. I also know that they make us suffer. And they're happy when we suffer. They were happy when Saddam Hussein attacked us. They were happy when Hamas attacked us. I'm not happy when we attack them. The worst thing for an Israeli would be to go into Gaza. We don't want to. But we have hostages there and we can't abandon them. We need to get them back. They're still firing rockets at us from Gaza. I mean, they keep complaining that there's, destruction, food shortages there, and I know there is. Where did they get rockets? I mean, if their first priority is taking care of the civilians, where did they get those rockets and why are they still firing them? Aren't they busy taking care of their people? If they have a hard time suffering, that's the way they respond. The reason that I find it difficult to understand is that my grandparents, they suffered ethnic cleansing from Europe and from Iran. Both sides of my family suffered ethnic cleansing. They came to this country with nothing. They lived in sheds, in tents. And we were angry at those people who did that to us. But we never attacked them back. We never committed suicide bombings, or we didn't go and stab people. Where we were ethnically cleansed from, to us it was a place that was dead to us. It was gone. We would want to take revenge, but that's not how we would do that. Our revenge was to build a new home here. And also, it wasn't a new home. This is a land that, that's us, Jews from Judea. Every year they would pray next year in Jerusalem ever since the diaspora started 2,000 years ago. Every wedding, we say, if I forget Jerusalem, I might as well forget myself, my right hand. This is not a land that was taken from other people, because those people who claim that we took their land, they came here after the land was taken from us. And a lot of them came here, after this country was conquered time and time again. And it wasn't flourishing until Jews actually came into it, they dried the swamps and made the place bloom, planted, and built. And I'm not just saying it because I heard it. I'm saying it because that's the history of my hometown. And I don't care what they're going to want, the Palestinians. They want to take my home. They claim that it used to be theirs, and it wasn't. The building I live in, it wasn't theirs. And I live in a town that, I don't live in Nahlia, I live in a different town. It's mixed. Muslims, Christians, Druze, Baha'i, and Jews. We live here together. In this building alone, we have several different religions. I greet them when I see them in the morning, and I go and I don't see them as anything but my neighbors. I care if they smoke in the stairway. I care if they make too much noise. That's it.